And in the UK, political leaders are preparing to pitch their election manifestos to business leaders gathered at the Confederation of British Industry Conference in London. Well, let's see how the markets are holding up. Let's check in with Juliana. Hello, Juliana. Good afternoon. A beautiful week to you. So, kick off the new trading week for us with intraday market positions for equities and currencies.
Good afternoon, Chimaze. Well, you know, 4 out of 4 big polls in the UK have the Conservatives at a double lead. And unfortunately for Labour and Liberal Democrat supporters, this is exactly what the FTSE All-Share is leading on today. At intraday, the FTSE All-Share is up 0.18%. The FTSE 100 is up 0.08%. And the FTSE is up 0.38%. Clearly, the equities believe a Conservative government is good for business. In currencies, also a good day for sterling. The British pound is up on the US dollar by 0.50%, up on the euro by 0.39%, and up on the Japanese yen by 0.72%. That's just after the Prime Minister Boris Johnson spoke to those business leaders this morning.
All right, talking about Brexit and election, how is the UK property market holding out? Do you have some numbers to crunch for us?
Well, there is some data that's been delivered by Rightmove, which is the UK's biggest online estate agency. And before, for the past 3.5 years, any dip in property numbers has been put down to Brexit. But of course, in November and December, you had a UK election and it's really set the market into panic. We were seeing so far in November that the amount of properties that have gone onto the market has dipped by about 14%. Observers are saying this is the worst dip that we've seen in the past 10 years. And really, it's because a lot of people that have properties to sell are waiting. They're waiting for this paralysis to be over. So they're hoping that at least if there is an election and there can be some clarity to where the country are heading, they'll put their properties on the market. Also, as well, we've seen a dip this month in property prices by about 1%, which is roughly equivalent to £3,900, which is still a big dip. But in Britain, across the UK, or at least outside London, the average property price is about £390,000, which is a lot of money, but you can add an extra £100,000 on top of that, Jimmy, if you want to live in London.
All right, Juliana, just before I let you go, let's talk football now. BT has won the exclusive rights to the Champions League, the Europa League, and the new European Conference League in the UK from 2021 to 2024. What's the size of this deal, and is the news positively impacting BT shares since the weekend?
Well, as you can imagine, you know, trying to show top-flight football in the UK is a very competitive business. So if you are a BT Sports fan, and they have several millions of them, then you would be really happy. Yes, they have extended their 3-year deal, so there'll be an extra 3 seasons of football that they'll be showing to their customers. This starts in 2021, and that will finish off at 2024. It's costing them £400 million a year, and BT Sports are hoping that they can get that back through advertising revenue. We know football brings in a lot of money. It's $1 billion business, not just here in the UK, but across the world. So they're hoping advertising revenue, subscription, and of course, as well, women's football, which after the World Cup and England doing so well, is really seen a surge of people supporting women's football. So they've added an extra 91 games to the package, and it's a big deal for BT, particularly as, of course, their shares did slump over the weekend after Jeremy Corbyn announced that he'll be trying to privatise at least part of their internet service if the Labour Party get into power on December the 13th.
All right, Juliana, thank you for updating us on that. Enjoy the rest of the day. And stocks in Asia were mostly higher today as investors looked for further developments on U.S.-China trade. Mainland Chinese stocks closed higher, with the Shanghai Composite up 0.62% and the Shenzhen Composite gaining 0.71%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rose 1.35%. Elsewhere, Japan's Nikkei 225 added 0.49% and the Topix Index gained 0.24%. South Korea's Kospi, on the other hand, slipped slightly to close at 2,160 points, and ASX 200 in Australia was down 0.4%. And in the U.S. stock index futures, we're higher this morning. At around 1:20 a.m. Eastern Time, Dow futures rose 69 points, indicating a positive open of more than 46 points. Futures on the S&P and Nasdaq were also pointing to a higher open. Market players remain focused on U.S.-China trade talks, while investors are also monitoring developments in Hong Kong as civil unrest continues. On the data front, there will be business leaders survey figure out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The NAHB survey is due at 10 a.m. and TIC data is set to be released at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. There are no major earnings to note. On the commodities market, oil prices were unchanged in early trade today following steady gains in the previous week, with investors awaiting fresh clues over prospects for a trade deal between the United States and China. Brent crude futures were at $63.30 a barrel, unchanged from the previous session, while West Texas Intermediate crude were also unchanged at $57.72 a barrel. Oil futures gained nearly 2% on Friday as comments from a top U.S. official raised optimism for a U.S.-China trade deal, but worries about increasing crude supplies capped prices. And in metals market, gold prices eased earlier today as optimism grew about U.S.-China trade ties following a report of a constructive talks over the weekend, while losses were capped by a softer dollar. Spot gold was down about 0.1% to $1,466.09 per ounce, while U.S. gold futures were 0.1% lower at $1,466.40. Among other metals, silver was down 0.2% at $16.91 per ounce. Platinum rose 0.2% to $890.89 per ounce, and palladium rose 1% to $1,722 per ounce. All right, we'll take a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll look at some of the developments, of course, here on the African continent, and one of which is Nigeria's October inflation numbers. Details in a moment. Just stay with us.